Great things are happening. Israel is growing more and more influential with incredible innovations in science, medicine, and high tech. And Israel is leading the way in humanitarian work around the world. It's also now forming relationships with Muslim nations like Oman, the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, and Chad. Folks, this would have been unthinkable not too long ago. But all of these Muslim nations realize that the looming danger in the Middle East is not Israel, but Iran. In 2018, Iran and its proxies, led by Hezbollah and Hamas, continue to wreak havoc in Syria, Gaza, and beyond. And our Watchman team was there on the ground to cover it every step of the way. Take a look. We are here on the Israel-Syria border at a live fire drill with the Israel Defense Forces. We're here with Jonathan, platoon commander of the elite Hatsan Kanim paratrooper unit here in Israel. Jonathan, thanks so much for joining us, first of all.
Thank you for coming.
So, Jonathan, it looks like you're prepared here with this drill to prepare not only for maybe urban warfare, but also in the open field, ambushes, a little bit of everything, right?
Right. Our enemy can catch us everywhere. Not only in the close area, but in the wild. You can catch us in ambushes, like you said, and we need to be prepared for it.
Well, Avi, we are standing on top of a watchtower just a half a mile from Gaza, and there's some very interesting, I would say, positive activity going on here right now. We talked earlier about those terror tunnels being dug into communities like this where we're standing right now, but Israel is fighting back against those tunnels. What do we see here right now, and what is Israel doing to negate that tunnel threat?
In the last couple of years, one of the major weapons, sort of speaking, developed by the Islamic Jihad in Gaza Strip, by Hamas, is the intrusive tunnels. Taking advantage of the fact that the soil here is very soft, you could scoop the soil, roughly speaking, they have been digging tunnels crossing from the Gaza territory into the Israeli territory.
The laws that pertain to almost everybody in life are that you make your choices and you're held accountable for your choices. That rule, that kind of fundamental rule of physics, has not really been applied to the Palestinians over the last 50 or so years. You know, we give them money and they act in ways that are unhelpful, in some cases reprehensible, and certainly not conducive to making peace with the Israelis. The Palestinian conduct over the last, not under the Trump administration, but over the last 50 years, has not been of a nature that merits financial aid. It's really as simple as that. The United States is not giving out money to people that pay stipends to terrorists and their families.
This has been going on for a few weeks now, kind of leading up to this moment where Iran struck directly in a hostile act against Israeli territory. Tell us about what went down here less than 24 hours ago.
This time, the Iranians attacked us directly by firing 20 rockets from inside Syria towards Israeli positions on the Golan Heights. Luckily, no casualties in Israel. 4 of the rockets were intercepted by the Iron Dome system, and the rest fell short. So at the end of that event, before we retaliated, the Iranians had in fact failed with their attempt to strike at Israel, which is a great thing. We then felt that it was appropriate and that the message needed to be delivered to the Iranians that this was totally intolerable from an Israeli perspective.
An act of war, I mean.
An act of war, an aggression by Iran against Israel, and we felt that a strong message needed to be delivered. We decided to strike 70 military targets that belong to Iran and that are part of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard's Quds Force deployment inside Iran. We struck those targets, we struck them well.
The Obama-Iran nuclear deal, I think, was the most catastrophic national security agreement in decades. The single most important step on the national security front that President Trump has made is pulling out of the Iran nuclear deal. That deal sent billions of dollars to the world's leading state sponsor of terrorism. They have spent massive amounts of money murdering Americans, murdering Israelis, murdering our allies.
Folks, we're at this bomb shelter in Sderot. We just had an alarm go off, a siren warning that Hamas rockets were on their way. Thankfully, they did not land. But this is what the people of southern Israel and cities like Sderot live with every day. You have less than 15 seconds to get to one of these bomb shelters. Our team ran in here along with several other people. Thankfully, it looks like the alert has passed, but this is reality here in southern Israel, in Sderot.
The bottom line is that the people who want to destroy Israel want to destroy us. And if we blink when it comes to Israel, we're next. So it's in our national security interest to stand with Israel on all fronts. More aid, more support. They have the largest tech economy outside of Silicon Valley. They're great trading partners. But there's a historic moment here where the Arabs are more afraid of Iran than they are Israel. And if you had strong American leadership, you could form a coalition between the Arabs and the Israelis and the United States to really push back against Iranian expansion and radical Sunni Islam like ISIS. And I see the president building that coalition.
Now, I'll have some more thoughts on the collision course between Israel and Iran a bit later in the show. But up next, we're bringing your Bible to life as we share some of our favorite Watchman biblical archaeology stories of 2018. This is exciting stuff. Don't move.